This was about 1930. He was a great storyteller, so a lot of sports fishermen came out here. They would chat with him, and he started selling crawfish chowder after that, and more people came, and by the late 1930s, a lot of vessels were underground in these shallow areas over here. People would just abandon some of the older ones. 3 city officials, including the city manager, set up like little shacks on top of beach vessels. They use that as almost like the bulkhead for it. 1940, a guy named Commodore Ed Turner, the term Commodore means that you had a yacht club. He set up something called the Quarterdeck Club, which was a party club over here in the shallows of Biscayne Bay. It went up in flames in 1961. He didn't get the clearance to rebuild it. But after World War II, several other city officials came out and other sportsmen came out, and they started building these homes, but they were now ramming these pilings into the shallow bottoms of the bay so that the homes stood well above the water line. In the case of a storm and a surge, they wouldn't be slapped by that surge. And so you begin to see what we call Stiltsville today. By the 1950s, more and more people are out here, and they're building the same way. They're on stilts. They're above the water line. Some are high above the water line. Until on the eve of Hurricane Donna, September of 1960, there are 27 buildings grouped around the Biscayne Channel. Look how shallow it is to our left. Come on, that knocks it down. By the 1970s, in the aftermath of another ruinous hurricane, Hurricane Betsy, you can rebuild, and they have rebuilt some of the homes. You're up to 17 homes in the aftermath of Betsy. Before Hurricane Andrew hit, there were 13 homes standing as late as June of 1992. The rules and regulations by the 70s were that A, you had to have a building permit to build. Before that, there was nothing. B, you had to have a lease from the state of Florida to use bay bottom. And then the stipulation also was passed that, look how shallow it is once again, on our right. Just walk in the water. The stipulation once again was also that if a home sustained more than 50% damage, you could not rebuild it. It had to be raised. That's why on the eve of Andrew there's 13, the day after Andrew there's only 7. And that's what it is today. Mother Nature's been good the last 16 years. It's kept those 7 going. But look at the shallows of the bay over here. Meantime, we've got some of these marvelous Stiltsville homes on our left. The one that's farthest out here is what we call the Leeshaw home. It was a long-time home of a very prominent judge, a circuit court judge. Prior to that, a municipal court judge in Hialeah, Judge Nuck. And Judge Nuck loved to sit on the deck over here on this home. Look at the seagulls. Sit on the deck of the home, and he would watch the bait fish running through. John talked about the mullet earlier. These waters were blackened with mullets running through them. And he always remarked upon that. The first thing you need to do when you come to the home after being away for a while, you need to swab the decks of those seagull droppings. That's your chief enemy when you're gone. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of vandalism, even in recent times. This is part of Biscayne National Park. I'm going to talk more about that later on. I wanted you to see the Leeshaw home. First of all, there it is. It's very unimposing, one of the smaller homes. On your right is probably the most picturesque of all the homes. This is what we call the Hardin house. Look at those ties there, those light pole ties that were rammed into bay bottom to preserve the place. The original home in this site was built in the 1950s, but it was taken out by Hurricane Donna. The Hardin family, also a family named Slayton, built it, and they said never again will that happen. They rammed those ties, those rail ties, deep into the bay bottom. When Hurricane Betsy came around in 1965, it beat up the deck badly. It did not dislodge the house because of those ties. Lloyd Bridges has shot one of his movies over there around the world under the sea at that house. It's also used for a lot of commercials. So that's the Hardin house behind us on the right. On the left is the Shaw Sessions Baldwin house. Gene Sessions, Gail Baldwin. Gail Baldwin's an architect. The home is built primarily in the 1960s. Many of these homes are existing home sites that were taken out by earlier hurricanes. This home here goes back to the 1960s, post-Hurricane Betsy, which hit in early September of 1965. Let me take a fast look at the Cape Florida Lighthouse to your right from here. It's a great vantage point. Now look at the shallows of the bay. You're only about a mile and a half off of the shoreline at this point. Look how shallow it is in different parts of the bay. So we've got the Shaw Sessions Baldwin home over here. We passed the Hardin house. Coming up nearest to us on the right, let's take a look at the right. This is Jimmy Ellenburg's house on the right. Jimmy Ellenburg was an incredible character in early Miami. He played football at Miami Senior High School one time when he was 16 years of age in the early 1930s. His parents said, we're moving to Arizona. Jimmy said, I'm staying. He moved in with his head coach. He stayed at his house for the next year. Jimmy also had a place a long time ago, I remember, called Jimmy's Hurricane Drive-In Restaurant at 37th and Bird. In the old days, you'd drive in, a lady dressed up in some kind of uniform would put a tray on your car, at the driver's side, serve you hamburgers, french fries, Coca-Cola, what have you. That was Jimmy's Hurricane. Jimmy had a lot of interesting guests here, including Governor Leroy Collins. He was governor of Florida from 1955 to 61. Roy wrote him a note saying, Jimmy, when my time comes to join the great hereafter, I just hope that place is as beautiful as this place is. This was Jimmy. Jimmy was the unofficial mayor of Stiltsville. And when he died in 1994, his body was cremated, his ashes were strewn around the house. That's Jimmy Ellenburg's home, the mayor of Stiltsville's home. To our left is the Hicks house. On our left, the Hicks house is one of the smaller homes here, also one of the most enduring homes. The Hicks house stands on pilings that go back to the 1950s. And that's an early period in Stiltsville history. We call it the Hicks home because you've had 3 generations of Hicks family members that come from Coral Gables who resided in that place since the 1960s. That's the Hicks home there, 1960s, post-Betsy. The 2 lethal hurricanes, Betsy and Donna. Donna at 60, Betsy at 65. Another look at Ellenburg's home over here. Got beat up badly by Andrew, but not badly enough when they had to take it down. Jimmy died 2 years later. Look at the birth and neglect over there. And then if you look way in the back over here on the left, way to the back, that's Miami Springs Powerboat Clubhouse. That's a very interesting story about that. There was a barge that went down in the Blue Lagoon Lake south of MIA, and it was tugged along those waterways all the way up to the Miami River, through the mouth of the river across here in 1960, and they built like a little shack on top of the barge. Donna came along, took it out, and they eventually built this place right here. It suffered a lot of damage with Hurricane Andrew. It's the largest home. There were 75 owners of this, were primarily firemen and policemen from Miami Springs in that area. The Miami Springs Powerboat Clubhouse. And it's a real communal situation over there. I've been over there, I've taken my sons fishing there. They've got these little fishing cuts in the deck there. It's got the biggest deck, very long deck. When it was real active, you had as many as 20, 25 people at the house at one time. Watching Dolphin football games, fishing, kids all around the place. It's quite a place. A lot of damage with Andrew, but not the 50% damage, so they rebuilt it over a series of weekends. And then this is the Bay Chateau home over here that Connie Dinkler built. It stands on the site of a 1950s home. Connie Dinkler was this grand maven of entertainment in the area. She ran the Palm Bay Club on Biscayne Bay in Northeast 69th Street. It was the Inn Club in the late 1960s, early 1970s. She built that home over there. The same architect that designed that home designed Jimmy Ellenburg's home behind us to the right.